Hey everyone, welcome to the Good News Podcast. As you can see, if you're on YouTube, maybe if you're not, you're hearing this, just want to let you know this is a solo episode. You'll probably figure that out pretty quickly. Just hear my voice today. We're trying to do these solo episodes once in a while because sometimes it's just a topic that we believe is a good one to delve into a little deeper. And this podcast, the Good News Podcast, allows us to do that with themes that are really important to our lives. In fact, trying to pick ones that if we can listen to this, if we can live into it, that we would be enabled to be good news, to be bearers of good news in our life, in our world, in our relationships. And so that's what this one is about. And this particular theme is around something I'm going to call lean in. And I'll explain where this term came from for me. And then we'll just delve into this idea of how can we lean in to other people? How can we lean into even when relationships are a little tricky? Maybe there's some turmoil, some stress, some angst. Maybe there's some hurts. Lean in would be a theme that just want to offer us that can be really helpful in these times. So back a number of years ago, this goes back quite a ways. I was having some challenges with an individual, and this was, as is often the case, someone who I loved deeply, someone who I was actually really close to. And just as we had gone through life, we were experiencing some things where we were more than drifting apart, to be honest. We were on different pages, and over and over and over again, there was just this kind of um, hurt that was happening as we were working through some stuff, and it ended up getting to a point where I know both of us were frustrated with each other. You get to a point sometimes where you don't even want to work through things. It just seems too hard and too complex and really too frustrating to be honest. And so it had got to that point, and so we were still certainly in a relationship where we were together as far as connected, but we really were moving in different directions. And I'll never forget a good friend who knew both of us, a good friend who loved both of us, a good friend who knew how important it was for us to not fall away from each other, but to be connected. I'll never forget, they said to me, you need to lean in. You need to lean into each other. And when this person said this to me, I don't know that I really understood what they meant. And in fact, I didn't understand what they meant. Not only did I not understand what they meant, but I didn't actually like the idea because it was like, no, I don't want to lean in to this person. In fact, that's the last thing I want to do right now. I want to run away from this person because they're driving me crazy, and again, I'm frustrated and I'm hurt, and it's not going anywhere. That's helpful. And so that was my first reaction to this, what seemed at the time a crazy idea of leaning in. So I just want to say that if you're hearing this and you're thinking about someone in your life, you're thinking about a relationship that's broken or someone who you're challenged to love, you may think this is a crazy idea too. You may not actually like this idea when you first hear it, and just want to say that's okay. I get it because that's where I started from as well. But over time, uh, just things started to evolve in a way that I realized this idea was the right one. That leaning in to this person, digging deeper in a whole bunch of ways, trying to come to a deeper understanding of what was behind the reactions that I was getting from this person, of really trying to understand where this person was coming from, why they were feeling what they were feeling, and why they were saying what they were saying and doing what they were doing. So there was like that was kind of like that's leaning in, a deeper listening. Again, seek first to understand. That was for sure a part of it. There was more of that too, though. There was also a needing of myself to be more open with this person, to try to explain where I was coming from, to not hide how I felt, not to rant and do those kinds of things. That's not generally helpful. Not to react in a hugely high emotional kind of way, anger or bitterness or those kinds of things. Not necessarily trying to move past those kinds of things, but still going deeper with my own experience and sharing with this person where I was coming from and why I was frustrated. It took time. I guess that was part of the challenge for me at the time. Is it just took a lot of time. And that was frustrating for me as well. But as slowly started to again to lean in to spend more time with this person, to go a little deeper, to ask some questions, to listen, to be intentional about sharing with this person why I thought the way I did, and my sense was that what was happening, how I felt. As it took time to do that, it was amazing. Like, things didn't change overnight because there was a lot of work that we needed to do together, but they definitely started to shift. There was a very real sense of loving this person, of wanting to be connected to this person, even though sometimes the conversations were hard, even though sometimes it was taking time that maybe I didn't want to take. It just got to a point where we knew we had to. And as we leaned into each other, we really did rekindle, reconnect that relationship, that love that we'd had when we first got connected, and over time the issues that were there, often they do return. Often the patterns that we live into, that we express. Often those patterns do continue, so I wouldn't want to say that all of the challenges went away. In fact, not at all. But the emotional engagement and connection with this person, the depth of understanding and I would say love for one another, really did reappear and grew us in a way that was a very beautiful thing. And I guess as I look back, I was so grateful that that other friend challenged me to say, no, you need to lean into each other. You need to spend more time together. You need to be more open with each other. And because the whole situation, the whole relationship, ended up in a very different place than it would have if we hadn't have done that. And so I give God thanks for that as well, and certainly that wisdom that came from a very good friend. So as you hear this today, part of my question would be, where do you have a relationship where you need to consider this idea of leaning in? Where could a relationship be better, stronger, deeper? Could be with someone who maybe you don't have any issues with, but you just realize now we need to spend some more time together, some more intentional time on a regular basis, and just go deeper with our life together. You'll experience amazing things as you do that, without question. But for some of us, we may have relationships and people in our lives with whom we are struggling, and I think it's more rampant, more prevalent than most people know. Sometimes when it's happening, we think everyone else has got relationships where it's all good, it's all just flying along, and everything is fine. I would suspect that there isn't anyone, if we stop to really reflect and really be honest, if there isn't anyone who doesn't have a relationship where there's a challenge, there's something that's been building, there's something that's been separating you in a way that's not healthy and not helpful. And this idea of leaning in could really be helpful. It could transform and change the relationship, but also you, me, in the process. So just want to encourage us to think about that and consider who we might do that with. Um, as we do, just some tips, some tools, some tricks, some ways that might help us do this. There's a two that I'd love to offer. One is from Matthew chapter 18. It's amazing. Jesus is so practical. I love Jesus' teaching. And in Matthew chapter 18, he basically says, when you have an issue with somebody, don't go and talk about them behind their back. Don't go and talk about them with other people. Go directly to that person and talk to them. I think that's what the lean in idea is. It's very biblical. It was the model that Jesus offered for conflict resolution, to go and speak directly with that person. And it is absolutely amazing to me how many times you enter into a conversation like that, and likely most of us don't look forward to those conversations. They can be awkward, they can be challenging, they can be scary, for sure, all of those things. But I don't think there's ever been a time where God has got me through that into the conversation and we haven't come out blessed by the conversation. And it's amazing how quickly it happens. Just sitting down with someone and being open and honest with them. It so often leads to just a reconciliation and a connection and a love there's this freedom that comes. You can almost feel something as soon as you sit down and start talking where, okay, the ice has been broken and we can work through this together. And now also very aware that there are some situations in life and maybe in your life that are more complex than that. And so maybe it's definitely not a quick fix here at all. And it's not even just one conversation sometimes. It could be a lifetime. It could be just continuous work. But there's something that happens when we have the courage to talk directly with each other, and God can bless that. And that's why Jesus suggests that in Matthew 18. Then Jesus says, if that doesn't work, then bring someone with you. Um, maybe someone who knows both of you and loves both of you. That's always been a good model for me. Jesus doesn't get in that kind of detail. He just says, hey, if it doesn't work out, the two of you directly, then have someone else join you and then have the conversation again. But see, that person is still involved. The two of you are still involved talking and connecting. It's not about the person. It's not gossip. It's let's talk directly and try to work through this and get the help from somebody else. And then it moves on to moving to getting a whole community involved. And that might be something that would seem strange to us, but in the times that Jesus was teaching, that's how the community worked. They work through these things together. But I love that it still has both parties involved, working together, leaning in to each other. So Matthew 18 certainly would be a resource I'd highly recommend around this idea of leaning in. The other resource is a book called Crucial Conversations. And if you are a reader, I can't recommend this book enough. This will help us in our leadership. It'll help us in our family, our marriages, our relationships, our neighbors. It'll help us all over the place. It's one of the most practical and concrete books I've ever read, especially around relationships, and in this case, having conversations that really, really matter. The premise of the book is that most of us spend our life thinking about life like this myth that if we have a crucial conversation with someone, that will mean the end of the relationship. And so we tend to avoid the conversation and just do one of two things. The author suggests we often will choose either silence, meaning we just don't say anything, we let it go, or violence, and not necessarily violence in a physical kind of violence, but more violence in the sense of aggression, of anger, and you can probably recognize that in yourself. Sometimes this happens. You can just tell that the conversation is moving into a place that it's crucial, meaning it's emotional, it's significant. There might be a bit of a disagreement on a matter that is of great consequence and significance. And when that happens, it could be someone asks a question that sort of challenges you. It could be someone gives you information that just sort of surprises you. And if you pay attention, you can feel your emotion rise right away, and likely will choose that fight or flight kind of idea. You'll choose to either be upset and emotional in a way that isn't helpful, or you'll find yourself just backtracking and just avoiding it altogether. So the suggestion, the idea would be that we don't want to choose either one of those options. We want to enter into the conversation and do it with love and with patience and with understanding, but also with clarity and conviction and being able to share how we feel and what we think. And when two parties come into a conversation, however challenging and crucial it might be, it's amazing what God can do through that. And so one of the ideas would be that I love the term in this book, Crucial Conversations, called pool of meaning. That the more we can increase the pool of meaning, and that may be mean getting information from that person, trying to understand why they made a certain decision, what is behind something. That can be the pool of meaning, and we get, oh, I see. That's where you're coming from. Okay, okay. Well, here's where I'm coming from. That kind of can happen. The pool of meaning may also be giving that other person some information that helps them understand why something matters to us or where we're coming from. And as we increase that pool of meaning, it just has us closer to being on the same page, because at least we have some of the same understandings and can try to work through. It's so easy to have miscommunications, and increasing the pool of meaning, it really does help us to kind of move through that and try to eliminate some of those miscommunications that can lead to bad decisions or wrong judgments, or just that high emotion of not getting along with someone. All of that is is part of leaning in to one another. So the relationship that I talked about earlier, that was years ago, and I'd like to tell you that that's the only time that it ever happened. Hasn't happened again since, but that's just not the case. It's happened many times over the years, and I won't get into the details as far as the specifics, because just want to honor people's privacy. But I just had a situation in the last few weeks where I just it had gotten to a point where I just really needed to sit down with this person and be honest about some things that just weren't happening in a way that seemed right. And before I did that, it was really interesting, because I found myself, as issues came to a head, as I was getting frustrated by what was happening, I found myself again going into that state where I wanted to move away, where I wanted to be like run from this situation and from this person. And even found that, like, emotionally, when I was in the same room, that would just, like, kind of this drifting was happening, and very quickly. And then it came to a point where we realized, no, no, we need to talk. We need to gotta lean into each other. And as soon as we did, it was incredible. The emotion, the feeling, the love just rose up, and we were grateful to be able to have the opportunity to talk so openly together. It was so helpful, so healthy. And we also worked through some of the issues, and where we came out of that conversation committed to what the future might look like, and on the same page. And again, it's not always that easy. Sometimes it takes several conversations. Sometimes it takes a lot of work. But the point is to, wherever we can, however we can, to choose to lean in as opposed to drift apart or move apart. One of the ways that I notice I'm living into this is there's these little cues in life sometimes, and where you just know you're good with people. You're at a good place with them. You've leaned in, you're sharing your life together in a good and healthy way. I was like, when you see someone's car, when you drive up to a place and you see their car, is it joyful? Are you excited? Like, oh my gosh, it's so good. So and so is here. I can't wait to go in and see them. Or when we're in a point where I think we're drifting apart, where maybe we do need to lean in and have some open conversation, connection with people. Sometimes it's the opposite. You see their car, and like, oh no, you know, I got to go in, and they're going to be there. And so that's just for me a little cue sometimes to know whether what kind of place you're in around this idea of leaning in, and how healthy your relationships are. Friends, just grateful as always to be with you. Would love to close with a prayer here, and and recognize once again that whatever it is that you're facing, please know you're not alone. That we all experience challenges with our relationships, and we'll want to pray that God would give you all that you need to lean in, wherever that's needed, and wherever that might be helpful. And just watch what God will do as we do that. Let us pray. Loving and gracious God, you have formed us to be in relationship. We are designed to be connected with other people, and so this conversation, don't want to miss how significant it is, and how good it is to have people in our life. Absolutely. We're all imperfect, and so that means there's going to be rubs, there's going to be challenges along the way, and so we name those, we confess those, and just want to name the parts that we've played that hasn't led to a healthy relationship, to know that you will help us through those things. You'll enable us to not only confess them, but work through them, and love each other in a way that brings blessing and healing and strength. And for any of us as we think about those places where we realize, oh, need to lean in, need to be more connected, need to deepen the understanding and the love for and with this person. Lord, help us to do that. Give us the courage, give us the ability, the patience, all that's needed to have those conversations and to build these relationships, because it's worth it. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes a lot of things, but you'll give us all of those things and more. And so, thank you. We love you and praise you, and just grateful for the way that you continue to lead us in all things, but especially in these challenging, sometimes challenging and broken relationships. Just entrust all of this to you, oh God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Friends, thank you as always for being a part of the Good News Podcast family. We would love it if you would share this episode with someone. Maybe there's someone who you know who think this would be good news for them. This could be really beneficial and helpful and healthy for them. So by all means, share this one with your friends. If you want to subscribe, that would be great because we'd love to increase our connection with you. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Good News with Jamie Holtom. Next week, we have an episode with a good friend, someone who's going to be talking about a topic that is relevant to all of us. Her name is Carol Ann Schneider, and she'll be sharing her experience around loss and grief and where she's found hope and some very unique things that she's doing in response to that. I think you'll love the conversation, and hope that you can join us for that. Friends, God bless you and be with you as always. So good to be together. God bless.